and I make educational games. And oh, I didn't hear a big sigh. Good. Yes, I make educational games, and I'm looking to make educational games that are actually fun. And so that's what my dedication is, to make great games for building brains. That's our tagline. So I started Fluency Games 3 years ago. I was a teacher, and I just wanted to help my kids get better at math. That's all I wanted to do, help my kids get better at math. So I started making games for them, and started making computer games for them to help them just do that. I taught 7th grade, so originally I was, like most of the people game developers you'll meet here, I started making games when I was a kid. In 7th grade, I had a Ohio Scientific C4P. It had 8K of RAM. It had 40K of disk space. And that's when I started making games. Went to Georgia Tech, got my degree in software engineering, worked as a software engineer for 7 years. Then fell in love with middle schoolers, if you can actually believe that. And I went into teaching. I taught 11 years. I got honored. I was recognized by the state of Georgia as a master teacher. I won awards in my school system. But the big thing to me was that I just wanted to bring the love I had for math to my students, to my 7th graders. And I did that by bringing in games. Mostly it was paper and pencil. This was before educational games were really even being developed. And I just wanted to bring that into it. And so I would make simple games for my kids. And then I made addition blocks one year, and the kids actually enjoyed it, and they actually loved it. So I submitted it to a national contest put on by Eline Media, Brain Pop, the Sesame Street Company, and it won for teacher entries. So I thought, well, maybe I got something here. Then I had to decide, well, I've got a bunch of other ideas. Do I continue teaching, or do I see what I can do with my ideas? So I decided to leave teaching 3 years ago and start developing my games to see what was out there. So right now we have 3 products: addition blocks, multiplication blocks, and percent bingo. And our games are not teaching games. My focus is not to teach something. There's a lot of educational tech out there that teaches concepts. My focus was on teaching or building fluency. So what is math fluency? Well, the definition is being able to accurately and quickly recall basic math facts. For example, for a 2nd grader, 9 plus 6, you don't want them to count on their fingers. You don't want them to count by twos. You want them to know it instant recall. Multiplication, 7 times 8 is 56. My last 5 years, I taught in a magnet STEM program at Marietta City. And so I had the top kids in the school. How many times did I see them write 5 times 6 equals 54? It was because in 2nd and 3rd grade, the teachers did not have the time to develop that math fluency. And so they learned that 7 times 8 was 54, not 56. And so that really got me thinking about, well, what do we need to do to help these kids get that right? Well, in my research and from my experience, there's three or four things that require kids to be able to build math fluency so they get that instant recall. One is repetition. They have to do it over and over and over, which is very boring. You have to do it a lot. It takes time. You cannot have a unit on math fluency that you spend 3 weeks on. It takes the whole year to build math fluency. And it requires immediate feedback. That means the kids have to know when they write the answer down to 7 times 8, is it 54, is it 56? They have to know instantly. What you're actually doing is you're actually building new pathways in your brain to make that connection. And if that pathway gets set, that 7 times 8 is 54, it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of repetition for them to change that. All right? So that's the requirements for building fluency. So how do teachers, still today, in 2016, how do teachers build math fluency in their classroom? Yes. Can you see that? It's about 100 multiplication problems that kids are required to do in 2 minutes. And they do that several times a week. Now, there's ways to do this well, and there's ways to do this bad. And unfortunately for teachers, most teachers do this badly. I mean, they give that sheet to the kid has to do all those problems, the teacher has to grade it. Do you think the teacher wants to grade 20 to 25 of those sheets 3 times a week? Do you think the kids want to do those sheets 3 times a week? Now, imagine you're a 4th grader. You don't like math because you keep getting your multiplication problems wrong. Do you want to do that 3 times a week? No. So that's a huge issue on building fluency. So that's why in 7th grade, I had kids that still couldn't do their basic math facts. Well, they could do most of them, right? So surely you're saying, surely there's an app for that. Well, of course there is. Here's a very common basic math fluency game. So the kid gets a math problem, they tap on the right answer, the frog jumps to the lily pad, and another math comes back up. So now you tell me, what's the difference between doing that and doing this? Not much. Their graphics are pretty, the sounds are nice, there's a little gameplay to it, but it's still the same thing. Kids are doing math problems over and over again. Now, there's several other issues with this. Is one that there's not a lot of game options for changing the speed or changing the difficulty. Sure, they can skip levels and go to a later level, but the teacher has to control that, and the kid is not going to want to control that because they want to do the easiest problems that they can. So of course, they can earn achievements and earn their belts or earn their medals or whatever, but still, it's very hard to control what level the student's playing at, or even what speed. Be very boring very quickly. All right, so this is another one that is high up on the App Store list. It's a secret agent type theme, and they just enter the right answer there as well. And here's a third one. So what's the drawbacks? Basically, this is chocolate covered broccoli is what some industry people are saying. It's just speed drills dressed up. There's little limited game options, limited or no classroom management tools, meaning they can't really control what their students are doing, plus they have to enter all the students' information, and either you're only available on the mobile games or you're just available on a web platform, which the web platform games are really not good at all right? So what's my game? Well, basically, this is multiplication blocks, so you're doing multiplication, obviously. The target number is falling down the screen and scrolling down the screen, and the user has to click on adjacent numbers to blow up the target block, all right? And so there's a constant action here of where they are playing the game, all right? So let's take a few minutes here. And so 15 is coming down, they click on the 3 and the 5 comes down. So they always have to be adjacent. And the blocks will kind of Candy Crush-like, the blocks will slide down and slide over, all right? And so that's a multiplication blocks. Addition blocks is the same way, except you're just doing addition. And then percent bingo is just what you think it is. It's a bingo game where the ball comes down and they have to, ball can be actually a fraction or decimal. It can also be a mixed number. It can be an improper fraction. And they have to just play the regular bingo game, all right? So a little different action here. It's a much more playable game because it's an actual game. Multiplication blocks and addition blocks is an actual puzzle game where the students have to do a lot of critical thinking while they're playing the game. Additionally, my games also have multiple speed and multiple difficulty options and multiple play modes. So that for you have a kid that's very good at math, you can ramp up his speed or ramp up his difficulty and play at the same level as all the other kids. Or you have a kid that's not very good at math. They need a lot more help. So you can slow the speed down, slow the difficulty down, and play at that different level. We also are going to have we also just introduced a web portal. This is going to be in 4 schools this year where they can control all the options through the web portal, and the game will be access the options, and the kids will not allowed to change it. So you can't have kids playing on the easiest level at the slowest speeds just because they want to. We'll also have in-depth score reporting and statistics on how they're doing, and we'll also have an in-depth graphical chart for how the kids are increasing or how they're decreasing. So what's the advantages to Fluency games? One, they're true puzzle games. They have multiple speed, difficulty, and game modes to allow for that keyword differentiation for your students. Extensive classroom management tools. Also, we're available on the PC and the web, so you're just not selected to one platform. We're going to do a subscription model and sell to districts and classes, and just not to individual parents. And we are seeking $50,000 to help continue to advertise and market and develop our games. All right. So that's Fluency Games. Hope you're interested. Do not download it because I think you might get addicted to it. I really do. So thank you for your time, and it looks like my time's up. So we have a few moments for questions. Felt like it went very fast. Yeah. Yes.
Do you have any plans or contacts in school districts to get this directly in the schools? Or can you repeat the question?
Yeah, he said, do I have any contacts to get this directly into schools? Is that, yeah. I do have some contacts here in Georgia because, like I said, I was in education, and so I do have some contacts. And like I said, we are doing a pilot program in 4 schools this fall with the web portal with the games. But that's part of what we want to do is market and advertise and find somebody who can do the legwork to go out and we'll do a lot of conferences too. Yes, ma'am. Subscriptions. So we want to do we want to sell subscriptions to the access to the data to schools, school districts, and even all the way down to teachers because teachers pay for a lot of their own stuff. So we'll have a rate that the teacher can buy it for their classroom, or we'll have a separate rate for if a school wants to buy it for their whole school, and same thing for a district. Yeah.
Are you at liberty to say which schools you're testing and what levels, what grades?
So yeah, these are for elementary school. Obviously, it's basic addition, basic multiplication, and so it's elementary schools. I don't know if I'm sure it's 3 schools in Marietta City and a private school for sure, and then I'm trying to get into a school in Cobb County right now. So somebody over here had one. Yes.
Your sales or marketing model, it states classroom, but isn't it more? And you don't have any real team, so is it more logical to go to the schools as opposed to the classrooms?
Well. Yeah, absolutely. So when I say teachers, a lot of teachers are going to be searching on the web for stuff, and so we'll have a web presence so that they can find it and say, oh, this is only going to be $49 for a year for my classroom. I'll spend that, or I can go to the PTSA and get that. We're also going to do conferences. Go to a lot of conferences. There's dedicated math conferences in almost every state. There's dedicated engineering, educational technology conferences in every state. And so that's what we'll do that as well. And of course, there's a big national conference too that I can go to.
So can I ask a follow-up question? So I'm looking at this $50,000, and based on your costs and expenses, 40% of it is marketing, which I'm assuming is the conferences.
Conferences, web presence, just getting it out there where teachers and schools go. Yeah.
And so $50,000 is going to cover all of that to do in order to get these initial 100 classrooms that you have denoted for 2017?
I hope so. Yes.
How does the math model work with regard to the new math that's being taught in many schools?
So the Common Core curriculum, which now states are pulling away from it, but they're still based on the Common Core curriculum. Fluency is a constant theme throughout all grade levels. And it says students need to be fluent in addition, multiplication with these. Now, I think the new model is how they break down, like if they're going to do 130 minus 78, how they figure that out. To do that out, and if you've seen the things on the web, they break it down, but they still have to be fluent in addition to be able to break that down, because they got to be able to add up those numbers quickly to break that down. So it doesn't, the math model is, I think, irrelevant because underlying that math model is still basic fluency. And that's what we're trying to help students be better at.
Well, and I understand that, and I think the new math was really a huge mistake. Some people may disagree with me, but if you go into any store, normal store, and the cash register computer thing isn't working, nobody can do regular math anymore at all.
Sure.
They can't even give you change if you give them $10.01. That it screws them all up.
Right. Because they're not fluent.
That's right. Yeah,
And that's what I want to solve.
but they're in the workforce now. You need a program for them. Not for elementary school.
I have a lot of adults who actually play this game. A friend of mine actually says in the morning he gets up and while he's eating his breakfast, he plays 5 minutes of multiplication blocks.
Time for one more question.
I think somebody over here was first. I think somebody over here was first. Yeah, go ahead. No, I have not done that, but my research has shown that building math fluency in the second and third and fourth grade is a primary factor in how the students will perform in more advanced topics because they don't have to spend mental energy thinking 7 times 8, 52, 54, 56, and then they can't do any more problems. So like I said, what the brain actually does when you build math fluency, it actually builds new synapses. It actually builds new pathways in your brain to make those connections. So. Sure, I have not done that. Yeah. Yeah, so if you have questions, please, I'll be hanging out afterwards, obviously. Please come and talk to me. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.